Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Brave Healing Podcast. I'm Laura DeFranco, and it's my mission to build a revolution of healers who are sharing their words and messages out loud and changing the world one brave word at a time. Listeners, thank you so much for being here today and helping me with that revolution. This is a really special episode, you guys, because I have 3 of the 25 amazing authors of the new book, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing Techniques, here to help me with my mission. The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing Techniques is a collection of 25 powerful holistic practices and tools you can use at home for peak health and wellness. You'll learn from 25 experts who are sharing their stories, passions, and transformational tools with you. You guys, most tool books that I own concentrate on one tool only. So it was my specific goal to create a very unique collaboration here instead. And when I introduce these amazing authors to you today, I think you're going to have an idea of just what kind of badassery is in this book. And listeners, in celebration of this new book, this episode is available in full video format inside a very special group on Facebook for our Amazon book purchasers. So if you're wanting access to all 25 authors with special interviews, Q&A, video trainings of the tools, bonuses, giveaways, please see the show notes with the details, okay? So now, without further ado, here to help me talk Brave Healing, I have 3 of our 25 outstanding authors to share with you. Ian Morris is the founder of Listening to Smile. Ian has over 20 years experience as a multi-instrumentalist, easy for you to say, Ian, poet, intuitive healer, and musician. You guys, oh my goodness, wait till you meet Ian. Ian Morris is also the creator of the LTS method, a powerful recording method designed to facilitate breakthroughs with the release and clearing of stagnant energy in the body. I also have with me today Miss Shellie Mekash. She's an expert holistic body worker specializing in John F. Barnes myofascial release, a Reiki master, and dabbler in Qigong and healing touch. She compassionately helps men, women, and children of all ages achieve relief from chronic pain and stress with a powerful, effective mind-body approach. And lastly, I've got Joyce Fishel, who is a holistic physical therapist, artist, and owner of Blue Lotus Physical Therapy in Baltimore, Maryland. She specializes in soft tissue injuries and myofascial pain to help shift old patterns of distress and return her patients to fitness and to step bravely into the lives they desire. You guys are going to find all of their websites and info and everything you need to contact them in our show notes. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you very much for being a part of this project. I know that any of you could have written about many different tools that you practice and help other people with. So Shellie, let's start with you. Talk a little bit about your chapter and why myofascial release specifically.
Well, myofascial release to me was really what brought me back to my life. I really had was experiencing a lot of shutdown within my system, and Western medicine wasn't cutting it. I wasn't able to find relief, and my body systems just kept shutting down one by one. And finding myofascial release was really the key. And so to bring that to others is really my passion.
So myofascial release, you guys, is being tackled in the book by 3 different authors. And reason being mostly because I am a fellow myofascial release practitioner, holistic physical therapist myself. And I wanted to be able to introduce this chapter in a few different ways. So Shellie, tell us the part that you are tackling specifically in terms of your tool.
My tool, I am introducing people to the TMJ release. So essentially, if you can see my hands, this is what we're going to do, is put our hands on the side of our face and sink in. So it's really the teaching of sinking in with awareness and feeling beyond your hands. It's like we think, oh, I'm going to feel this, well, but what do we really feel? What are you feeling underneath that? And it's that aspect that we're not aware of, that we can feel beyond our hands and relax that tissue that gets bound up and restricted. And so it's going in and sinking in and doing that and experiencing the relief from that stress that may be bound in there.
So, and thank you for tackling the hands-on self-releases. And that's the portion, right, you guys? So there's, in myofascial release, especially when you're doing it for self-treatment, you can use your own hands. You can use particular tools like a little ball. And then there's just the idea of the stretching component itself. And I'll have the other authors on talking about these different components. And actually, we're not even covering a couple more components that we could have been talking about, right? There's so much. But for all of the authors and the chapters specifically, again, one of my goals was to give the reader a full experience by the end of that chapter, a tool that they could walk away with, having had a full experience, not just a teaser that kind of gives a partial result or this or that. So I love your talking us through the TMJ release. People have so much issue in their head and their neck and the computer work and the postural stuff. So, so thank you for, being willing to tackle that particular teaching. You did it well, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to Joyce next. Joyce, talk to us a little bit about your chapter. You are a fellow holistic physical therapist, and in a minute, I want to talk to all of you about the word holistic. I know that we purposefully chose to use that word when we describe ourselves, but your chapter was about guided imagery. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, I think that the mind is such a powerful tool, and a lot of times I'm interested in the way that our bodies feel, the way that we move, the way that we think, and the thoughts that create feelings within us. And with using guided imagery, it's such a simple way of using your imagination to take your body in a different place, because our minds don't differentiate our thoughts and the way that we feel. So you can think about walking and parts of your brain lights up that's responsible for moving your legs. And I find that to be such a mysterious, wonderful thing. But more than that, I'm a former recovering artist, to be honest. And I really enjoy the idea of being able to utilize my imagination and helping others use theirs.
I love that piece of it. So only because I know different things about what you do. What are some of the other tools that you combine with that one in your private practice?
I have been specializing in visceral manipulation, and that's how the organs, the deepest fascial tissues, are attached to the insides of us. So being able to help move you from the inside out, essentially. It's a very gentle technique that helps you connect to these intense inner feelings, the tightness in your chest, the knots in your throat, the butterflies in your stomach, these tensions that we may not even recognize our bodies having. Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question exactly.
Well, visceral manipulation, just the visceral myofascial release is a topic that people don't often get to hear much about unless they come across somebody like you. I know it took me even a while in my own healing career to come upon the training that was visceral training. What do you think is important about that in particular when you look at like all of the different things that we can learn about a body? What's up with the viscera that people should know?
Well, everything is attached to the musculoskeletal system. We're used to, I'm a physical therapist, we're used to physical therapists working with back pain or shoulder, neck, whatever body part. But those limbs, our body starts from the inside out. And when you have certain tensions, certain feelings, whether it be from an injury, a fall, a car accident, or perhaps you have tension in your life due to anxiety or stress, these tensions affect the way that you move. And visceral manipulation is a very gentle technique that helps you rediscover these movements and helps you move into sometimes areas that are very uncomfortable, break old patterns, and help you basically move from the core.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for explaining it. It's, you guys, I think one of the goals I've felt this mission for a long time is to be able to communicate something that is hard to communicate so that people really get what we do as healers, and so I think it's challenging sometimes to have people understand what they don't know yet and why it's important and all of that stuff. So it's a great skill to be able to explain it in the way that you do. And I love the way that you always give me the visuals, which is part of what you're talking about in your chapter. So thank you for taking on that topic. So Mr. Ian Morris, so I'm going to give Ian a bad time because he is the only man in this project. So it takes a very brave man to be the only man in a project like this. But first of all, thank you for saying yes. And since I've met you and had a taste of sound healing your way, I've had some incredible experiences. And so I wanted you to give the listeners a little bit of an idea about your story and why this tool, and kind of, I know it's a long story, but give us the brief version.
Yeah. Well, essentially 2010, 2011, I found myself, overweight, 312 pounds, and just unhealthy, having a lot of anxiety, migraines, chronic migraines every single day, pretty much. Just basically experiencing things that I was getting a lot of different contradictory information from mainstream medicine. I ultimately got diagnosed with MS and colon cancer. And just was really struggling mentally and physically. And so as a last resort, which is funny because I'm a musician and artist, and, I came to sound healing as a last resort, just kind of fed up with everything else and said, well, this sounds really awesome. I'm going to dive in. And so when I started, utilizing frequency-minded music with headphones, very similar to the ones that you have on there, I started seeing major breakthroughs. So it was so potent and so exciting. It just became a passion where I was like, I can't believe the effects this is having on my body. In a year's time, I lost over 100 pounds. People started seeing changes in me. I grew up dyslexic, had a lot of learning disabilities growing up, and people would say things like, you're talking faster, you seem smarter, I can't keep up with you, I don't understand what you're talking about. And so it was very different for me. So just seeing that it was in myself and then being able to share that with other people became the passion.
So it's interesting. I asked you all for a shorter bio today so that I could introduce you. And there is a line in here that I don't remember reading. And so I was hoping you would talk about it a little bit. It's the part about the LTS method. You say that it's a recording method designed to facilitate breakthroughs with the release and clearing of stagnant energy. So if you guys understand energy, frequency, and everything is energy, then you can understand how a music, vibration of the music can actually change your energy. But I got to hear more about what you're meaning with that line.
Yeah, so a lot of people especially people that listen with headphones, they'll comment or send emails saying your music sounds different than regular music. And I think the reason that they're saying that is because it's laid out in a spatial manner. So like in headphones, when you're listening, people will talk a lot about binaural beats. And so, the left speaker and right speaker have different tones, and it's to facilitate a specific brainwave state, for your body. And so what we're doing is, I love binaural beats, and I loved a lot of the things like pure tones and frequency music, but a lot of mainstream people I knew, just from my family and friends, had really hard times listening to that because it was boring or not, creative or, their type of music. And so I had the idea of creating all genres of music, folk music, new age, hip hop, trip hop, rock, dance, with the frequency music. And so we ended up titling that and trademarking frequency minded music and moving into that. But what we basically do in each song is create a binaural beat with a mono beat. So it's the way that it's laid out, it's very spatial, and the people will say they'll hear certain tones in the center brain, or their left and right, or they'll hear things swirling around. And all of that's intentional, and it's based on whatever specific frequency and intention that we're working with. But it's present from the start to finish of each song. They're getting introduced to a frequency and a tone, as well as the creative, melodies and stylings of the music.
So you guys, when I met Ian, I had him on the podcast and we did a full-on interview. You guys can go and listen to that full interview and really hear Ian's full story. And I was truly fascinated. I started dabbling, loved it, and then very quickly became an affiliate of Listening to Smile, which is an option for you healers who are interested. And the reason I did that was that as I started to use the music, of course, I was feeling the things that he's talking about. But then as I started to share it with other people, I became fascinated by the response, like you're saying. But I have one funny thing that I haven't actually talked to you about yet since it happened. I thought, well, why not talk about it now? And it's what you said earlier about, it's an older generation of people. And it was, I did an event online. We're in the middle still of this pandemic lockdown right now at the time of this recording. And so we moved our sound healing events online, which is awesome. People still get to experience the music. But it was an older generation, and I had several comments that they didn't say boring.
Yeah.
But they told me that it was really hard and to, I guess, sit still with it, like to really just sit still and meditate in that kind of music. And they said to me, well, I was expecting real music, and so what would you say to the person who's struggling there? I mean, I know what I said to them, but I'm curious about what you would say.
Well, with Listening to Smile, the thing that's really neat is that we have such diversity. So there's some songs like the Belief Code 21 song that's like our most licensed song, I would say, is a traditional meditation track. And then we also have what I would call tonal tracks, which are basically meant for the specific tone and really the foundation of that song. And then throughout the beginning and the end of the song are very tonal. And so different styles of music, different tempos of music, and different frequencies really have different effects on different people. And it really depends on where they're at. For instance, if someone said, I started crying during this song, they might relate that to a bad thing. But what's happening is a emotional release, that's happening. And then there's other people who will hear a tone. And I don't mean something like a mic feeding back where it makes you go like, oh, but there's people who will react that way when they hear a certain tone. And a lot of times they'll think, well, I don't want to listen to that. But it's the same thing, like medicine or working out at the gym. It's not always the happiest thing that you take, but it also helps you in your evolution. So medicine might not taste good, or working out at the gym one time won't give you that beach body. But with all the sweat and dedication, you can have, that sculpting take place. But I attribute the same thing to any of these modalities, whether it's Reiki or, sound healing or massage work. You're creating movement in the body, and sometimes it gets uncomfortable for people. And a lot of times, letting ourselves go from an expectation or even the thoughts that come up during the exercises or, sessions, really are playing a profound role in helping you to evolve if you're paying attention. So I always try to teach people, be very conscious and pay attention to the things that are coming up for you. Like if you feel bored, or if there's something else that's coming up, like an emotional response. We even have feedback from people that say they see images or colors, during their session. So I always tell people the biggest thing for me is to journal. Every time you do a session with frequency minded music, write down the 5 or 10 things that come up for you, and then look back at the end of that week of work what came up for you during this week? And it's in retrospective like that, it's a lot more effective than something that you might forget at the end of the week of all the experiences you had with that specific frequency or that specific song. And it's just work. It's just like putting in the work like anything else. But it can be very effective and very powerful for helping to create release work and healing.
I love how you talked about that. I'm actually going to segue into asking Joyce and Shellie about this, because we all very well know about, meeting up against resistance can be your biggest opportunity for healing, right? And just really quickly, since I wrote the chapter on writing and journaling, I'll just make I'm realizing I haven't really talked about my own chapter in these interviews yet, but that practice is such a great way to enhance all of the other self-healing practices. So if y'all can use that as a shifter of the energy, and then Ian's talking about keeping track and taking some notes literally about the feelings that you had and with what song, right? So that you can like look back and go, oh, and you're going to have some aha moments. Greatly suggest people do that with any sort of program that they're doing, because it's nice to be able to look back and really see progress and see the shifts. But this is so perfect. So again, Ian, thanks for the way that you talked about when it doesn't feel so good. So Shellie, I know that, and Joyce, both of you, I know that you both deal with your clients being in that space as well. So Shellie, what do you say? How do you describe that opportunity of when something isn't feeling so great?
Well, it is that recognizing and becoming aware that even though we're feeling that, it really comes out on the other side. So it's that chaos that we experience, and then the beauty of change, or the evolution of that feeling, or expending that energy and getting it out of your body. So it really is a positive thing, what we're feeling, even though it feels crummy or scary or whatever. We know that on the other side of that is that beauty, is that peace.
And Joyce, how would you say it?
Well, a lot of times I ask people what they notice, because what Shellie was saying earlier about using your hands, you realize that you are helping introduce, you're doing body work just like anything else. But when you use your hands in a certain way and you realize you capture this tension or emotion in the body, it's like you're just introducing them to themselves, a part of their body that they're unaware that they actually are carrying with them. And a lot of times I will ask, what do you notice here? And allow people just to breathe through it. And if they want to experience something, a lot of times there can be an emotional break, an emotional kind of rupturing and release. And sometimes it catches people by, complete surprise. Sometimes it's like your body goes into this improvisational sort of movement, and it's like helping people just realize that they are comforted, and asking them just to relax and breathe, and then later on kind of exploring what these things came up. When people have these emotional breaks or these ruptures, it sometimes triggers them back into memories, and just being able to introduce this back into them, something that they've been carrying along for a long time, is helping them unpack their bags. And all I ask is for people just to observe and not judge. Or a lot of times people are embarrassed that they have these emotional upheavals, but I think that it's one of those things that when you're going along the path of life, helping them be able to navigate that. And really it's more about being the guide that helps them discover themselves.
And how amazing that y'all are able to talk to people about this and really educate, right? So when they're having an experience, they've already had a discussion. It's in the background of their knowing that this is okay, that they're going to be okay, that it's normal to be listening to a sound healing track and burst into tears, and so they don't think they're crazy or weird or abnormal in any way. That actually, that's the best thing ever, because I think you said it, Joyce, a minute ago, that operative word is release. And what bubbles up for release, right, is, and they do catch us by surprise. But I think it's so important. Part of our message, the important part of our message is educating people that that's part of it and it's not bad, you know. And y'all are skilled healers in the sense that you chose to hold that space for other people. And that's why I feel so honored to have you all here with me and in this project, because I think that that particular energy is so palpable with all of you. So thank you for that. Okay, so now is the time for the speed dating questions. And I'm going to go, so brief answers the best you can, because I know the second I ask you about holistic, you're going to want to talk for an hour about this word. But so Shellie, why holistic healing? Why just not regular?
Well, holistic to differentiate, right? So the difference is that whole person. It is mind, body, spirit. So it is encompassing all of that versus the traditional medicine. So
yes.
Exciting in the fact that it's expansive.
Definitely. I like that word, expansive. Ian, how would you go about talking about holistic in terms of healing?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the multifaceted approach, you know, to healing is treating the root cause. And I think traditional medicine treats the symptoms of the causes. So I think holistic gets to the root of the matter. Like, where is this really originating from and why is this happening? And kind of doing that through the multifaceted approach.
Nice. You know, we just got a beautiful review for our book from Dr. Gobetti. I think I'm Gobetti. I think I'm pronouncing her last name right. And one of the lines in her review was about how people are going to have kind of a new hope if they haven't done so well with traditional medicine, from this book. And I was so thrilled that that came from her, that she recognized that hope factor, because I think that's what we're giving people when we look at them holistically. Joyce, talk to me about being a holistic physical therapist.
Like what Shellie was saying about mind, body, and spirit, it's bringing together that entire package. And when people come into my office, they're bringing their entire experience. It's not just a pain or an ache, it's their life and their past. So being able to be there to listen, not only to what their body speaks, but to it's what their body speaks, really, whether it be verbal or nonverbal.
One of the biggest things for me that I realized along the journey was that if I was sitting with a client and, they came into for their physical therapy, they had a prescription for ankle sprain or whatever it was, right? The doctor was always sort of labeling them with a body part where they were having pain. And if I, as a therapist, only decided to look at their ankle and I wasn't going to look at the entire body, that entire fascial system, we've talked about this in some interviews with the other authors before today, that I was going to miss a piece, right, of the opportunity for full healing, getting to the root cause, because the cause could be in other places in the body, that three-dimensional web of tissue. And I think that's one way that I talk about holistic is whole body system. You're not just an ankle, you have connections from your ankle all the way to your head. And then the other thing was, again, that client sitting down with me and going through the interview, if I didn't really have a handle on the stress level or really what was going on in the life of my client, maybe they had lost a job, lost a loved one, have been going through a divorce or whatever that is, then again, if I'm not focused on the whole person, I am going to miss something, a big aspect that could be a possibility for their healing. So I would always ask myself, am I treating this whole person today? Or am I only looking at their ankle, you know, literally, thinking, talking, and looking at their ankle? So those are just some of the ways that I've talked about it in the past. So Joyce, let's stay with you for a second. Tell us a bit about who you work with.
I work with women and men that want to get back into their lives. A lot of the people that I end up having in my office are people who've had numerous surgeries or just can't quite, well, numerous surgeries or different therapies. They've come to the end of the line. They just can't quite get better with traditional treatments. So those people who have a lot of, well, I work with any kind of postural dysfunction, anything from the, well, I say end to end. I like to talk about like how the jaw is connected to the pelvis. And these are the areas that I work well with, helping people understand when that expression, you're talking out of your ass, it's actually a fascial connection that goes right along with there. So a lot of the stress and tension that we have in certain places is connected in others. So helping people get back to their lives, especially when they want to return to doing something that is meaningful and important.
Cool. And again, you are in Baltimore, Maryland, although right now I think everyone's doing a little bit of telehealth as well.
Yes.
So, and remember you guys, if you're listening and you're interested, you can go into the post or the show notes and we'll have places where you guys can connect with all of the experts and practitioners that you're hearing on these episodes. So Ian, talk a little bit about your business and who you're working with and how that's all going down these days for you.
Yeah. Well, traditionally we host events and, you know, as you were saying, we're kind of in a time when everyone's taking their business online. So our business model really works well for that. So we offer licensing for music, so people can use it in commercials or videos for their business, as well as social media. They can use it on poetry. They can use it on, you know, a lot of different ways to utilize the music, as well as in sessions. And then they have the ability to resell the music to their clients, which a lot of programs don't offer. So that's really helped us in this time. You know, there's a lot of people who are, you know, moving on, transitioning to online, and they're looking for music options and ways that they can add some extra income. So that works really well for that. Yeah, and the people that we work with are, you know, we work with children with autism. We're working with cancer patients from, you know, all different forms. We've worked with people that have learning disabilities like myself with, like, you know, dyslexia and those types of issues. And then also people that have pain and restlessness and things like that. So it's a broad spectrum of, you know, people that we're working with, and as well as the demographics and ages, you know, of people. But yeah, I would say as a man, I wish there was more men getting into these holistic options. A lot of my male friends will reach out from time to time, like, I don't know, does this stuff work? You know, I see you on that interview. I don't know. You just put headphones on. That's all you got to do, you know, just like stuff like that. And so it's a stretch sometimes to get some of my male, you know, friends and family into it. But it's something that is definitely, you know, catching on more and more each day. So
I'll just say really quickly that one of the ways that I've used your music is behind the poetry. So thank you for mentioning that. And of course, the words themselves kind of moving through me was one level for me, and writing poetry and then speaking poetry was another level for me, actually moving words out of me and moving that vibration from my heart to my tongue and sharing it. Not only I was hearing it, but other people were hearing it, right? And then lately, speaking those words over your amazing music, like, oh my gosh, it just feels like heaven to me, the combination. So thank you. for that. That seemed like, for me, just felt like a collaboration made in heaven, really.
yeah.
So I know that there are people, and for the podcast too, you know, people are using music for intros and outros for their podcasts and doing different things. I think that like anything else on all of these topics, when we're consciously choosing to vibe a little higher these ways, right, then we're just little bit by bit, we are changing the world. So it's a big deal. Shellie, tell us a little bit about who you're working with and how your business is going down right now.
Well, who I work with is literally from newborns, brand new babies, all the way to the other aspect of the population. And in that, I find it's so fascinating, from those newborns, like when my grandson was born, and brand new baby laying at the edge of his mama's feet, and he's just flailing, and just bringing the energy back into him and bonding with him is just, it's so amazing. And to tell that story and to have people realize that, oh really, that can happen, kind of thing. And then as well as people that have been suffering in pain for years, and they've tried different things, but this is all new. It's like it is that light switch, and it is that aha moments for people when they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I didn't have to feel like that or hurt like that. And that is so beautiful. And to be able to have them have that awareness that it's within themselves, right? It is, we are just the facilitators. So I work with all aspects, athletes too. My girls have all been athletes, and so that's been a really fun aspect of the work as well. And the same thing, it's bringing that awareness to them, and them, kids catch on like crazy, and love this stuff. So it's great. And right now, I'm also an affiliate of Ian, so thank you for that. And using his music in sessions is really quite profound. Hearing from people, like, what did you feel? And oh, when this was going on, I felt it right here in my heart center, So it's super, super interesting to marry those two modalities together, I guess, is really quite cool. And as far as I haven't done any online or any telehealth yet, so we'll see.
It's all such a strange new world, isn't it? When you're used to putting your hands on people and really connecting with your hands. Yes. It's interesting. I think it's going to up-level our energy skills is what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's not a bad thing, right? Until we can all touch again, mm-hmm. until we can all hug again, which I know everyone is craving for sure. Okay, so let's stick with Shellie. Shellie, tell me something you love to do so much you lose track of time.
Well, that would be being in the outdoors, even mowing the lawn, right? You just, it's the mundane, but yet it is, you just lose yourself. We have a big, huge yard and I love it, right? Or gardening, anything like that, to get your hands dirty and be out in nature.
I love that. Ian, how about you? Aside from listening to music.
Well, actually, it's making music.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know this, but when I founded Listening to Smile, I was actually homeless. And so for about a 2-year period of time, I lost everything that I had, the apartment I was in, my car, all my music equipment. And when I was going through all those health issues, I racked up about $60,000 of doctor bills. And it was just a really dark night of the soul, a hard place to be. But in that time, I remember like dreaming up music, like in my head. I could hear music playing, and I would think like, I can't wait until I have, this stuff that I have behind me here. And I'm just going to record all the time, because I missed it for those 2-3 years that I didn't have it so much, that when I'm in the studio, it really is like I'm in a different universe. I'm in the multiverse, and there's so many potentials of all the different instruments and different melodies. And it's one of the most creative, fun places to be for me. That I lose myself. There's, Dana, my partner, that helps me with Listening to Smile and in life as well. there's lots of times she's like, you were recording for 16 hours straight. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
really? It didn't seem that long, you know? And, you know, so I definitely, it's a passion of mine and I absolutely love it. So it's definitely where I spend a lot of my time.
I love that. There have been a couple of times in tracks of that I listened to through the album, and I'll be laying there saying to myself, "Oh, this is the UFO track," and it's because I feel like I am in that galaxy, right? And I know Joyce would appreciate. It's like that visual of space. It's like the best. Oh. So Joyce, how about that same question for you? What do you love to do so much you lose track of time?
So what I've been doing lately during this extra time that I have, some of the extra time that I have, I spend a lot of time actually studying anatomy, and something about that is maybe a little bit questionable, but I've been using that knowledge to get back to being creative and actually working on some illustrations and some things. I like to play with my hands to create, like Shellie, like being outside, but lately I've been getting into the ins and outs of how to do puppetry. It's one of those things where I want to be able to demonstrate emotion through inanimate objects, and why we become so attached to, like when we see something, Ian has the music, but when you see something also that all of a sudden tugs your heartstrings, when we have that, yeah, it's just so fascinating to me where just a little bit of a movement or something can be so indicative of the human experience. And so I've been playing a lot with that. And so basically I'm playing by myself in the pandemic with my art supplies and toys and things. So
that does not sound bad at all.
no, it's actually quite nice.
And it's interesting to me how many of our authors and maybe healers in general are artists. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people who says everybody is an artist, everybody is a writer, everyone is a healer, right? It's just that if you grew up thinking you didn't get I know I used to say to them, I didn't get the art card. You know, my sister got the art card, so I never even really tried because I didn't think I got it. But I now know that is so not true. But there's so many of our authors, healer authors, who have fully embraced their artist and are producing amazing art in whatever form it's in. And I don't know, I fall in love with that when I see it. So thank you for being one of those people who has embraced it and is sharing with the world, right? It makes a difference. So you guys, any last words about just the project in general, your feel of it, your part in it? Shellie, how are you feeling about this? And what would you say to the people who are, got this book and they're about to open it?
Well, I think the opportunities, like you talked about, the different modalities or the different things that are in there, I think that is so key. Like you just get so hungry to find out more about things that you didn't even really know existed. Mm-hmm. Like even with Joyce, with the imagery, when I think of that too, I think of our kids. You know, we teach them, you're going to make a free throw. What do? You visualize that ball going through the hoop, and it's that and expanding on it. So the whole project, it's like there are all of these other things out there that we didn't know existed, and other people are experts at it, and to dabble in that and expand, and just the potential, and to have it all in one book, you know, it's just like it's there for us all. It's like, what a huge gift. I feel so honored and grateful to have been a part of the project. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Joyce, what would you say about this book?
I think that, you know, it's wonderful because it has so many different tastes of things that when I work with a client, so many different things could benefit them, and it's hard to kind of guide them. This is something that I'll be able to offer clients and recommend so that they can get an idea of what is out there to explore themselves. Because I think what is important is that, you know, I don't have all of the answers, and it's been really, like Shellie was saying, really a great experience to be able to work with other people and find out what is out there, to figure out, you know, with Ian and how he can help you, whether or not it's for your own practice or for your own business, to be able to incorporate that with your clients. But so many different things are out there and accessible. I think that's the most important thing, is that it's actual techniques at your fingertips that you can practice immediately. And that's fabulous. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you very much. Ian, how about you? Last words.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's so cool about this is it's an amazing book for, the people who are coming into that curiosity of holistic healing. And I think across the board, like traditionally, like when I was doing this in 2009, 2010, 2011, going through researching for myself, there was so many dead ends and so many things that you would get linked to after weeks of time. And like you were saying, how you came to some of these things later on in your healing journey. I think a lot of people are going to be super psyched when they open the book, and it's just like a Lego building block where they just keep stacking on each other and they can go through it. And I think the other thing that's really neat is that these are all relatively people who are related back to you in some way. And so it's like this spider web of people who are connecting networks and sharing their healing journeys, and just putting that all in one book is so powerful, I think. So
yes, thank you for giving me the visual of the ripple that I have had for a long time, not just with this book, but because when you all share your gifts out loud in the form of publishing your chapters and then later speaking about it, today speaking about it a little bit more, right? Those people who are listening, and then the people they talk to, and it just is, I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you all so much for being a part of that. This Brave Healer revolution, that ripple that we're creating, the work you're doing with yourself and on yourself alone, changes the world, changed the world already, right? And so now everybody you touch from that place, that is really the real, really the real. It's a lot of reels in there. It's just the real way that change happens, right? We start with ourselves, and all of you all have walked your walk in incredible and amazing ways. And here you are doing it again, being brave and sharing your tool and yourself in your stories. So thank you. Listeners, you guys, if you are listening to the podcast and you have not purchased the book yet, the Amazon link will be in the show notes for you. Remember, in a brief period after our launch, you guys are going to have an incredible opportunity to join a very special group on Facebook where the video of this interview is, and some other really badass things, some giveaways, some teaching from the author experts. So don't delay. That will go on for about 3 months after the book is released. And lastly, everybody, I want you to remember, you were born, so you are worthy. Your message matters. What if the thing you're still a little afraid to share is exactly the thing someone else needs to hear to change or even save their life? It's time to be brave.